Shyamalan, if you at any point see this, take this advice. Forget all these big technically advanced special effects movies and bring us Unbreakable 2. We've been waiting 10 years for this. Next picture, your next picture better be the sequel to your best one, and that's all we have to say about that. Or else you better just switch to soap operas.
Come on, baby, let's do the twist. You know, because the twist. What's a twist? You know, that old chestnut? Okay, welcome to StillerBros at the movies. Happy 2019, everybody.
It's been a pretty interesting year so far, but we're not here to talk about that.
That's kind of another video we're doing somewhere else, but 2019 is here, and what better way to start it than with a movie that people feel very lukewarm on at best. Ladies and gentlemen, we got 20 years to go through here, so let's just talk about M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes. We start off in 1998 with The Sixth Sense.
Essentially, the idea of critics was, oh my god, this kid came out of nowhere. He's fantastic. This is how to do it.
And then in 2000 with Unbreakable.
Oh my god, he did it again. This is two whole movies. These are two great movies. Spectacular.
Then we have Signs.
Oh my god, that wasn't as great as the last two, but my god, was this so good that this kid is the next Spielberg. Actual Time magazine cover story.
Then we had The Village.
Okay, that wasn't as great as the last couple, as his last three, but don't worry, this is just a little slump. He'll be fine.
Then we had Lady in the Water.
That was a mess. I mean, what's going on, man? It's okay. You'll come back from this.
And then we had The Happening.
What the fuck happened? What the fuck, man?
And then probably the worst of his entire career, The Last Airbender.
How did this happen? He was...
Then After Earth. A movie that is forgotten for good reason.
Yeah.
And then
people don't even remember the time Shyamalan tried sci-fi.
And then The Visit.
Okay, why'd you look better than the last ones? Could he be actually getting better?
Then Split.
Oh my god, he's back!
And now we have Glass, which has gotten very lukewarm reception, like we said, but this is a big deal because he is finally making a sequel to Unbreakable, a real one, full-on sequel to Unbreakable.
Almost 20 years ago, M. Night Shyamalan was basically making his own version of superhero movies back before superhero movies were the monster that they were today.
He deconstructed the superhero genre before the superhero genre, really. So,
and for years, people all over the world, us included, have been asking, when is a proper follow-up going to happen? A completely original superhero idea that no one saw coming and that no one tried to replicate, since.
2 years ago, Split hit theaters, and the twist at the very end of the movie was that it was, in fact, a hidden sequel to Unbreakable.
The final reveal of David Dunn at the end of Split. By the way, spoilers for a 2-year-old movie that everyone should probably already know that this is how it ends, considering all the trailers have pretty much revealed it. But the reveal of David Dunn at the end really solidified the fact that M. Night Shyamalan was finally doing this. I'm not saying that it was the reason that critics suddenly started loving Split. I mean, we've seen Split now. We know just how good it is. The cinematography is fantastic. Shyamalan, a guy who after watching movies like The Happening and The Last Airbender, no one would consider an actor's director, directs one of the best performances of James McAvoy's entire career. And it's just effectively creepy. But when you throw the idea that this is a stealth sequel to Unbreakable into the mix, then you get something. Because it finally gave people after almost 20 years a reason to believe that Shyamalan may have gotten all the bad movies out of his system.
because today we have Glass. Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis return to the Shamaverse, or the Israel 177 trilogy, as it is apparently called. And we have James McAvoy returning as the Horde, but Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis together again. Having watched a little bit of Unbreakable last night on TV, we just saw the last scene and it was just amazing on every conceivable level.
Everything about that ending scene is fantastic. The fragility of Samuel L. Jackson. This is a guy who is always playing the Banff in every single role he plays. Anyways, I feel a little douchey calling him a Banff, but that's basically the character, an acronym for the character description. But every single time he is on screen, Samuel L. Jackson is on screen, he's a badass. So to see him be fragile, breakable, and not just physically but emotionally, that's the final scene of Unbreakable encapsulates it all perfectly. And then there's the writing, and then there's just James Newton Howard's fantastic score.
Everything just fell into place. Great directing, great cinematography, great score, great acting from one of the most highly known actors ever to live.
And now 20 years later, we finally see the next step in that story. Granted, I probably would have liked Patton Oswalt's pitch better, but this is what we got. And Night Shyamalan has been working on this for 20 years. Well, a lot of people are saying it's kind of disappointing. Some people saying that it's the biggest disappointment of his career, to which I say, I was there for Last Airbender, dude. I know what the biggest disappointment of his career is, and it ain't a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. But we also have returning from Split, Anya Taylor-Joy,
because you don't really make a sequel to your horror movie without having the Survivor girl come back in some capacity.
Spoilers again for Split, the movie you should have seen if you're looking into Glass.
And then finally there's the addition of Sarah Paulson, a new character to this franchise. To this franchise, essentially adding in as a psychiatrist who ends up getting involved with all three of our main characters from the previous two movies.
Yeah.
And so now we're kind of dealing with the psychological aspects of this. Now, granted, I don't know why there was anyone who was thinking that Night Shyamalan was just going to make a straight superhero movie rather than match the tone of Unbreakable when making the actual sequel to Unbreakable. But that's clearly not what he was going for.
Unbreakable was not an action movie. It was not a superhero movie. It was a cerebral. It was a thriller.
The biggest action scene in the movie is literally a one-er of Bruce Willis getting banged into a wall by some guy as he's trying to strangle him.
As he is just giving him in a chokehold.
It's not an action movie. It's just, in fact, if anything, that scene basically is an example of, wouldn't this look ridiculous if it happened in real life? Yeah. Oh well, enjoy watching your Daredevils and all your other stuff.
Yeah. But now, obviously, Shyamalan kind of picked the perfect time. He made to make his big comeback by bringing Unbreakable back into the world when later this year, when we have 3 superhero movies on the docket this year, just 3 I can name off the top of my head on the docket this year.
And that's just the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
There are other superhero movies coming this year.
Yeah.
So with the height of superhero, it's like if Clint Eastwood decided to direct a Western right about now, if Westerns had become if True Grit had brought the Western back.
Yeah. But, yeah, this is a great time. This is great timing-ish. It would have been better if we had gotten this a lot longer ago, but Shyamalan's able to tell the story he wants to tell, I assume.
it's we're kind of in M. Night Shyamalan's self-funding period where it's just like, I'm gonna tell the story. Okay, the studios started taking money away. The studios took my money away, so instead I am just going to shoot these movies myself. So instead I'm just going to make the movies I want to make. I'm gonna fund them myself. We'll see where this goes. And so far, and the last two were very well received. The Visit was well enough received. The new Split was declared by many, even people who didn't like The Visit, as essentially, holy crap, the first good M. Night Shyamalan movie in 13 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course, we have to thank After Earth for it, because he used his fee from After Earth to fund The Visit, which then brought Split, got him in with Blumhouse so he could make Split, and then eventually Unbreakable, and then Glass.
So, as it comes down to it, we here are living in, hopefully M. Night Shyamalan pulls through in some capacity. Once again, people at best have been lukewarm on this. A lot of the critics we follow religiously on YouTube and stuff like that don't know what to make of it. They've been kind of on the fence about certain aspects of it.
It's very interesting to see how this goes. Let's see if in our eyes anyway, if Shyamalan can stick the landing.
Hopefully we'll get... I don't know what I'm expecting out of this. Usually I'd say I just want a big fun action movie, but this is not what we're getting, especially since I think The Last Airbender pretty much proved that Shyamalan is not an action director.
Yeah, but we'll see. But we're gonna just stop talking now because we've been going for almost 11 minutes.
So we will see you guys after the joke. Yep. Is it wrong to say I didn't hate it?
I don't know. I don't understand the supreme hatred that film Twitter is giving it. It's a pretty good movie. Not great. I had some issues with it, but it's not Last Airbender where it's a total betrayal and there's more than likely going to be an entire fan base after Shyamalan's blood.
I mean, okay, so let's get into this. It's not bad in the way that it's not bad in the way that most Shyamalan movies are bad, where it's like, I mean, it's got all the little things about Shyamalan that people like to poke fun at, the complicated dialogue, the occasional over-seriousness. There's
some interesting dialogue reading choices that feel a little off at points.
But I think in the long run, the performances are actually good for things like an actually good performance out of Bruce Willis for the first time in years.
And we have Samuel L. Jackson just fucking killing it. And James McAvoy, this is gonna be like one of the most iconic roles of his entire career.
And but I think the main weakness is kind of, it's not focusing on any particular story, and that's kind of the problem.
There's a kind of a solid story there, but they're moving around, but there's too much moving around between characters. There's a lot of we got like 7 main characters total, and we're just kind of bouncing around a lot for the most part.
There are scenes where we're spending time with Bruce Willis's son Bruce Willis's character's son. There's times where we're with Anya Taylor-Joy. There's scenes where we're with Elijah Price's mother. But then there's all these scenes in the psychiatric hospital where we've got Evan Wendell Crumb and Elijah Price and David Dunn all interacting with this psychology, just played by Sarah Paulson.
And that stuff's kind of interesting, but it just doesn't feel like it goes a lot of places at times.
It's just kind of left in the air. I mean, we get this possibility that Sarah Paulson's character is actually getting to David, where it's just like maybe she's actually convincing him that all of this is in his head.
And it's the same thing with Kevin and the Beast, but and then Elijah gets thrown in the mix, and of course he was the one who created David in the first Unbreakable by telling him all this. But so obviously that's a lot of stuff there, but it's kind of, it felt like there wasn't a lot of David or Elijah or Kevin. It just felt like they were kind of background noise to this.
We're just kind of floating around for the majority of the movie, just like occasionally we'll check in here, check in here, check in here, check in here. But by the third act, we're invested kind of in David and the Beast and Mr. Glass, but only because we saw the other two movies.
Yeah, there's investment there because we saw Split and Unbreakable, but
The difference between this and Avengers Infinity War, where there also was kind of a lack of setup and everything like that, was that there was a clear kind of focus on it. So that we knew exactly where everyone was, who everyone was, and we knew exactly where to go with this. With Unbreakable and Split, we still had a lot of questions left over, and I think that's why a lot of people wanted the 20 years later, wanted this story for the last 19 years.
yeah, and it's definitely got good psychological stuff to think about. It's a good thriller. It's got some interesting action sequences, although the cinematography is a little weird at times, where they got Snorri Cam on it, a lot of Snorri Cam, way too much POV shots.
Yeah, I think Shyamalan heard that people really liked that introduction shot to the Horde in Splits, so he's like, okay, more POV shots. That's nice, creepy and atmospheric, but I feel like that's not a good way to shoot an action sequence as much as he did.
Yeah.
I kind of like the fact that they kind of touched on a little thread that he left loose from Unbreakable, where it was just like they touched on it. It was like Elijah at the end of the first movie. You kind of get the feeling that he's doing all these evil things, not because he wants to do it, but because he believes he has to, because he believes that he needs to, that it's his destiny to be a supervillain. Though I think that they only kind of scratch the surface with that in the end.
And also, it's not a Shyamalan movie without a twist. And there are two twists.
In fact, the second twist, the big twist, there's a small, medium twist, which basically, I'm sure a lot of people figured it out a while ago if they read up on these movies and kind of figured out what and looked at the title of the trilogy and everything like that.
There's kind of a small twist that's that twist is actually kind of hiding another twist.
There is a twist within a twist in this. Twistception.
And then we get an even bigger twist at the end to close out the movie.
And it just tells you that despite the fact that M. Night Shyamalan clearly did not want to make a comic book movie, he is clearly got bit by the cinematic universe bug.
Yeah. And I think if we're going to get more of this franchise, Sarah Paulson's going to come back. I really enjoyed the way that we got what we got of her character in the end, because I'm a fan of Sarah Paulson as an actress. She's never steered me wrong yet.
In the three things I've seen her in.
Yeah, in the 3 things I've seen her in, but she's pretty damn good in this.
But even though kind of the weakness of her character is that she's kind of this expository machine. She kind of explains these things. She kind of is trying to push the plot. She kind of pushes what little plot there is until the third act along.
Yeah.
Because there's not really much of because like we said, there's not really much of a focus. The idea is essential. I mean, the idea is that it's these three guys just kind of, locked in this place, trying to understand, and everyone's trying to understand them as they, with these delusions, or with what they believe to be delusions of grandeur.
And there is a ticking clock element to it, but at the same time, it's kind of like played off very slow, very laid back, kind of. Maybe we'll get to the deadline.
In fact, the ticking clock just kind of goes away at a certain point.
Yeah, they kind of move up the ticking clock and then change it. There's a lot of misdirecting and stuff because it's a Shyamalan movie, but at the same time, I kind of had an enjoyable time just sitting there piecing this together.
There's stuff to like in here. The atmosphere, the first act where we find out what David Dunn's been up to for the last 19 years, where we actually see the introductory fight between him and the Horde. That's pretty good. It's atmospheric. It's creepy. It gives us a whole wealth of stuff. There's visual film storytelling up the wazoo. In fact, it's not even just devoted to the first act. I mean, there's even a scene that I like that even uses the upside down. Let's use the camera to tell the story. Let's use the camera's actual movement to tell the story thing that I like so much. Where like Bruce Willis' son is actually exiting the mental hospital quick, and the camera turns upside down because this whole world is kind of turning upside down. Sorry if anyone feels like I'm spoiling anything, but I just kind of wanted to explain that.
Yeah, there's these. Obviously, it's gonna and score's kind of there. It's not a huge deal. It's not like James Newton Howard's score in Unbreakable.
But I think the interesting thing was the way the music was used in this movie. There's definitely notes of a somewhat triumphant superhero theme in points when the action starts to ramp up, but it's kind of played in kind of downer key. I think it might be a minor key. I don't know. I'm gonna say I am very amateur when it comes to my musical ear.
Yeah, and another thing that based on how this movie ended, Shyamalan probably didn't have the ending for this kind of trilogy of stories until probably like the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, and the big payoff, it kind of comes out of nowhere. There's no like real set. There's like little bits of something that shows up when the final twist, when the final big twist shows up, but it just kind of comes out of nowhere to the point that it's just like if you missed even a second of the movie, you're like, did they explain that?
And kind of the big ending, it was really satisfying. Even though I kind of felt a little, even though I was kind of a little upset with the way they ended it with some characters, I was also kind of satisfied with the way they put it to the end.
But the thing is there going to be more? They've stated that this is a trilogy so far, but I don't know if M. Night Shyamalan's just going to focus on this for the rest of his career, particularly because it's not really the kind of filmmaker he seems to be, considering it took us almost 20 years to even get this.
But Shyamalan has stated if he gets inspiration, he will come back to this. But at the same time, this is a somewhat satisfying ending to this trilogy. If you are a fan, if you're kind of a fan of Shyamalan, or again, I don't understand the hate, but I don't really. It's hard to put stuff to this. It's very difficult to talk about, and also it's kind of hard to nail down a lot of stuff. It's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna be thinking about this one tomorrow and probably in the next couple days.
I honestly can't say whether or not to recommend this, because it's just kind of an intro. Because I think it depends on what you were walking into. It kind of depends on your kind of viewpoints on certain things. It kind of depends on a lot. It's a thinker. It's a thinker, but it could be a thinker in the wrong ways. It could be a thinker in the right ways. I don't know. I thought it was. I walked out of it just kind of thinking, is it wrong to think that I kind of liked it?
Yeah. So that's kind of it for us this time around, guys. This one's this is probably one of the more interesting ones we've seen ever. But
I mean, yeah, it's just if you were planning on seeing it, see it. If you weren't, that's fine too. I mean, we can't force it. We can't like tie you down and force you.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, that's it for this time around. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and be sure to tune in next time when everything's awesome.
Everything is awesome. Bye.
Bye.